live. Hey, John.
Live. How's it going, Adam? Good to see you.
Good to see you, man. I am Adam Zambruski with Hospiamo. We have John Mang with Intech Group with us here today. My beautiful, not so twin brother, Matt Zambruski, up in Boston, he cannot make it with us today. I can't believe he has something more important than this, but the things happen, so but that's okay. He is with Agile Game Changers. We started this. We are on episode number 28. We started this on our mom's birthday on May 25th and said, "Hey, let's do something together and let's try to be consistent and do something new, and also to try just to do it 10 weeks in a row." And we did 10, then we did 20, and now we have 28. So we are not stopping anytime soon. So this is we've called it the People Who Move podcast or video podcast. The because we are touched and very moved by the idea of change makers, sometimes called chain breakers, specifically in the hospitality, hotel, and real estate industry. But also our worlds collide, my brother and I. He is in the agile management, agile leadership, Scrum, software development, electrical engineering world. And but the more we talk, the more we know that we're all talking about the same thing, and it's getting things done. Sometimes faster, sometimes better. Um, but with the most important aspect, which is including others that we care about, that we like doing business with, or that we're trying to give a helping hand to. So, John Mang with Intech Group is with us today, and this is the episode where we are talking about hospitality, architecture, and design. And whenever I think about architecture and design, I think of John Mang. John and I have known each other for well over 10 years. We were just going through a walk down memory lane, looking at photos from 10 years ago. I had a little more hair. Don't think I had a beard. But John and I have worked on several projects together. I have a ton of respect for you, John. And what has kept us going back and forth with each other, I think, has to do with how we think things through. I'm an operator at heart, and I have been in the place of wanting something more than what the budget would support. And you have a really great way of, maybe doctors call it bedside manner, to say, I don't think that's going to fit, or let's go back to the drawing board if that's something that's new. And so we've worked through quite a lot of projects together like that. But John, I'm going to step back and just say welcome. You are in Charlotte. I am in Charlotte. You are with Intech Group. That is, you have a couple bases. You're based in Charlotte, but also the founders and I guess the home base is up in the DC area, right? And
Yeah,
how
yeah.
does let me just ask you what's happening with you and with Intech Group, and say hello to our millions of fans.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for having me. It's exciting to be here. Sorry, Matt couldn't join us today, but I guess sometimes it's good to be in second place. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here today. So, it's an exciting time of year. We have a lot to be thankful for, and as you mentioned, we're kind of based out of the Northern Virginia area, Fairfax, Washington, D.C. One of the things we're very thankful for is that we are going to be entering our 40th year, or celebrating our 40th year as an organization this year, coming up in 2024. And, with that, we've been in Charlotte now for going on 13 years, I believe it is. I should have that number off the top of my head, but really great, exciting, environment, and couldn't be more proud of the group of people that we have in a truly collaborative environment, and every single day brings a new challenge, and that's just part of the exciting nature of what we do. You mentioned we're architects, and it's a lot of people sometimes take a look back and it's like, wow, that's sounds pretty, kind of technical, or kind of is bigger than what it is. But when you distill it down to what we really do, it's about problem solving, right? It's about problem solving and managing expectations. I think you mentioned a few minutes ago about how we came to know each other, and some of the projects and challenges that we've worked throughout the years. That's what it all boils down to. The buildings that we design, the spaces that we create, are a result of all of that, and the effort that goes into it collaboratively. So that boils it down into kind of its true pure essence.
Yeah, you're also a pretty cool entrepreneurial story too, because you were in Charlotte. You went to UNC Charlotte, right? You graduated from UNC Charlotte,
I did, yeah.
and
Seems like forever ago now. I think it was back in the 90s, believe it or not. So time flies.
it's and you're from Buffalo originally.
I'm a reformed New Yorker, as I like to say.
Yeah.
As great of an area as it is, and there's always a fresh new way of doing things, right? And I think that's what drove me to Charlotte back, in the early '90s, to come here, was in search of that, right? It's an exciting, and back then, I mean, it's funny. I still have the roadmap, before GPS and everything else, that I had, I bought when I moved here. That had, it's amazing. You see the skyline of Charlotte, and you can count more. There are less buildings on the picture of downtown Charlotte. The stadium wasn't here. Bank of America Stadium wasn't under construction at that point. I think One Wachovia, or Wells Fargo now is, it used to be First Union. That's how far back this goes. One Wells Fargo, I think, was just AIA Building of the Year that year. So that was just built out and topped out. So
Wow.
to be a part of the growth of Charlotte over the last 30 years or so has been truly amazing. And that's something that wasn't available, as wanting to be an architect. Coming from Western New York, the economy was down. They were coming out of the 70s and 80s, and the Rust Belt was, I won't say dying on the vine, but it didn't go through that level of revitalization that has happened over the last couple of years, or last 10 years or so. It was a little slow to catch up with areas like Cleveland and Pittsburgh, who went through their revitalization a little bit earlier. But Charlotte offered everything that you wanted as a young architect. It was fast paced. It was growing. When I looked at where I wanted to go and live, it was either here or Phoenix, Arizona. It was kind of a business decision. Fast growing area, same thing. But there's no way my Western New York blood could handle the 110-degree heat. I still need a little bit of season. So here I am.
Oh, that's good, man. Yeah, I don't think I knew that about the Charlotte versus Phoenix decision. I was being from Connecticut and Rhode Island. I was forced with a choice. Also, it was between three. It was either or around the same time. I was looking at Orlando, Florida, Hawaii, of all places, Honolulu, Hawaii, because I have some family and friends there, and then also the Grand Canyon area was, sounds random, but it was, that would be my Phoenix, because I was like, I don't know if I could handle something in the desert. It was but also something that specific. And so yeah, I chose Orlando. That's where I moved, and it was a business decision. I was like, where's the future of hospitality? And Disney was on my mind, and so that's pretty cool. It's a and you and I moved here in 2010. worked uptown with Pharaoh's Hospitality. That's where you and I met, working on some projects together. And um, so that was my introduction, much later than when you arrived. And I live in an area, as you know, called Ballantyne. And when you, I mean, not only the state, the Panther Stadium's not wasn't even there when you moved here. Um, and I think the area where I live is probably just forest. I mean, it had to have been. It didn't really get developed until late '90s, early 2000s, I think.
So, kind of funny story regarding Valentine in that time frame. I was actually working putting myself through school for a construction company called Draw Enterprises, and they're still around today. And they specialize in kind of paver block roadways, retaining walls, things like that. And I was running the crew for them, and it was actually at the Ballantyne Resort and the golf course, doing some cart paths and roadways and things like that, and some of the site amenities at the country club. And I remember standing at the corner of Johnston Road, and where the archways are, that define right there in front of Ballantyne Village. And I remember looking around, and you could see the tops of the buildings in uptown Charlotte from there, but there wasn't a single building around in that area. And I remember standing on Johnston Road right in front of those stone arches and just looking around saying, I don't know what's going here someday, but somebody truly has a vision of what it's going to be. And now you fast forward 30 years and you look at, Ballantyne, I believe, is if you took Ballantyne out of the Charlotte's population, it's probably the third largest city in North Carolina, probably behind Charlotte and Raleigh. I think is the statistics. So it's truly amazing what's happened down in that area over the years.
It really is, and I want to show off my technical expertise here real quick because I'm gonna show you, but I'm also gonna show the area where we're talking because it is very relevant to the change in whether it be architecture and design. I'm going to show the maps row here so that I think most of our millions of listeners globally are not in Charlotte. So here's what John's talking about here. So here's the beltway of Charlotte. Here's downtown. So this is where John was talking about, where you can see the skyline of uptown, and we're talking about this area here about 15 miles south. And John was standing. You were probably standing like right about here. These are the arches that John was talking about. Here's the resort, absolutely beautiful resort. That this used to be a golf course, and now it's going to be this. Another development there that's going to be quite impactful and in a very positive way to the area. So, yeah, there's hotels, restaurants all around here. So, it's quite amazing that John, that you've been here to see this transformation. And so, so going back to I'm going to go back to your website with your bio there. I wanted to ask you about these funny letters after your name and what it means to the general public here. So it probably means that you're really smart and very experienced. But when an architect and designer, I want to also ask you about upfits and renovations and things like that. But when someone has an AIA, NC, ARB, and CDT after their name, can you walk us through a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, well, some of it was a funny thing when you get out of college and you start a career. It's kind of, I had a goal at one point to try and get every letter in the alphabet in some sort of certification after my name. I could never find the Z of what that was going to be, so I kind of backed off of that. But
it's a good goal.
Yeah. AIA is just American Institute of Architects. It's the national organizational body that kind of houses all the architects across the country. It's that they are advocates for the profession, what we do. Typical trade group type of organization. You do not have to be in AIA if you are a registered architect. It's a total choice. If there are plenty of architects and really good ones out there that are not a part of the association. So if you may see an RA after their name, that means registered architect.
Okay.
So
It's interesting.
that just means I'm an AIA member.
Yep.
NCARB, as it's known in the industry, is the National Council of Architectural Registration Boards. It's a mouthful, but what it means is it's an organization that basically corrals all of the 50 states and all of the U.S. territories registration requirements so that I can be licensed in any state in the country that I need to be without having to take other exams. So as long as you meet certain requirements, continuing education requirements, and keep yourself in good standing, it allows me the flexibility to basically manage our transcripts to be able to send to architectural review boards in each state that I need to be licensed in. So that's kind of what that is. And really the one at the end, CDT, that's probably the one I'll say most proud of, but it's the one that means the most to me. It stands for Construction Document Technologist. And again, that's a bit of a mouthful, but when we speak as architects to contractors and to clients, the construction documents are kind of the instruction manual that we put together for contractors to be able to build what the client's vision is, or our who we work for, our clients, and it's that kind of communication thread that takes their words and visions, puts it on paper so we can hand it off to general contractors and construction managers to actually build from. So it kind of, and there's three parts to that, right? There's the contract between the owner, architect, and contractor that deals with a lot of specific language of how these relationships between the three entities work. Again, AIA, that's another value that they have. Is typically all the contracts are managed and written by AIA, and it's the industry standard that everybody uses with some modifications to actually formulate contracts between owners and architects and owners and contractors. So that's kind of one leg, and then you have the drawing side of things. And the construction documents, which is the how we communicate, and again, it's tying all of that stuff together into, if you want to say it, you go to IKEA and you get your set of bookshelves or your dresser, and it comes with a kind of flip book that shows you how to put it together. Very rarely do you have to call and say, I can't figure this out, right? So construction document technology basically says that it's a certification. I said I can put all that stuff together to be able to hand to a contractor and manage the process between the owner and the contractors that goes along, and has a well streamlined process for building their vision at the end of the day.
I'll tell you the analogy on a much smaller scale is at a hotel, like a chief engineer, right? A chief engineer is there to take care of the building and do preventive maintenance and repairs and things like that, right? And when a chief engineer has maybe it's a CPO, a certified pool operator certification, right? It reduces the potential expense to call a outside CPO or an outside company to come in there and help you fix something. And it's the educational portion of what you're describing of being able to speak from multiple perspectives. And you're with that CD sorry, the CDT, right?
Yeah.
It's you're able to likely save a significant amount of expense for an owner or a developer that might have some construction type questions, but you can answer them. I mean, it's without having them call like a GC and to go under contract with somebody else earlier than maybe they should be, right?
Sure. Yeah, it's expense and liability, right? Those two kind of go hand in hand, and nothing can get when things aren't coordinated and things aren't done right in communication between the owner and a contractor, whether it's in written form, and communication on the telephone, on a set of drawings. That's where change orders come from, right? When things aren't coordinated. So again, it's making sure that everybody is speaking to everybody as efficiently as possible through all the means that are available to you to create the desired outcome without additional cost or liability for really both the owner and the contractor.
Yeah, it's one family and hopefully speaking the same language, right? And that's
exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's always, they call it the three-legged stool between the owner, architect, and contractor, and that's kind of what a project and the foundation of a project sits on. And sometimes there's this just kind of misnomer or misconception that because it's there's three parties that work together, that at some point that's an adversarial relationship. For whatever reason, like it doesn't have to be that way when everything's well documented and well done. It's really the most efficient and cost-effective way of doing things and creating buildings out of vision. So when everybody is working together and on a common goal, I always say, at the end of the day, it's like I want three things to happen throughout the course of a project. I want to do a really great job and have a product that I'm proud of in terms of design and function. I think that's what the owner wants. I think that's what the contractor wants. So there's a common goal. The second thing is to make a little bit of money, right? We're a business first and foremost. So we're in it for that. The building owner or the clients in it to do things as efficiently as they can at the lowest cost. And the same thing with the contractor. They're a business entity as well, and everybody wants to come out patting each other on the back with a job well done, and meet their internal goals for financially for producing a building or a project. And then the other one is to have a lot of fun along the way. If you can't have fun along the way, we're missing something. So those three things go hand in hand. Now, developers always tell me I got it out of order. You got to put the money. Everyone wants to make a lot of money up front, and then the other two kind of fall in hand after that. But I get that too. But that's again,
a good segue, because that's why I brought up these drawings here, John. Going from like this, which I know it's not probably all by hand, but this looks to the general public like it's hand drawn over a long period of time, and I would say that when you want those three things, a product and design functionality that you're super proud of, and everybody's super proud of, and then to make an efficient business, make some money, maybe on budget and on time, right? And then to have some fun. I think, just my opinion, like when during this stage of like the thinking and planning and problem solving of this won't work and this might work, I think without those critical conversations, sometimes when they're rushed by one or somebody, one of those entities, if it's rushed, then I think it's almost impossible to have fun, because then you're always backtracking and being like, well, we should have done it this way, we should have done it that way, and we didn't verify it, and the budget's now expanded, so we're not making the kind of money that we did. There's change orders and there's these different things going on. So I do like that order. And now, speaking for a as an architect, I do recognize also that if this costs your company, right, $1,000, I don't know, I'm just throwing that number out there, then this next iteration, like of the same type of project, right, this might cost you, $5,000 to develop because it's putting it into your systems. This might be an extra, thousand or so. But then when you get to this, and just for the public out there, this is not an actual photo. This is a rendering, highly detailed, and I would think fairly expensive rendering in order to produce from this original drawing. And so during those conversations, let's say building 13 here eventually got moved in this stage. I mean, once it gets to this stage, I mean, the money's been spent. I mean, that's a significant portion. So what is the technology or software that you use in order to take something from this to that?
Yeah, the last picture, the previous one with the sketching. I mean, that's kind of where I live. I mean, it's all pen and pencil and
Yeah.
marker and stuff like that. The more three-dimensional drawings and hardline drawings. There's a couple of tools, AutoCAD, which is something that's been in the industry for decades now. It's been the kind of the program of kind of production for architects for years. And then going to the three-dimensional stuff, there's been a shift over the years from kind of a bunch of architects used to put together drawings in a bunch of two-dimensional views, right? You draw a floor plan that's flat on a page, and then you draw an elevation that's flat on a page going, up and down. And instead of looking at the plan, you're looking at the face of the building. And those were all separate drawings, right? That had to be drawn. When you get to, some of the three-dimensional views that you're seeing, where you can actually pan around a building and it has mass and three dimensions to it. That's called building information modeling, or BIM. And that's where Revit is where we spend a lot of time crafting those images, and that truly you're truly building a three-dimensional model in the computer of your product, not just drawing a series of two-dimensional drawings flat on a page that need to kind of be their own things that tell the story. So
that'll allow you to go inside the building, right, and to see the nuts and the bolts behind. That's what that BIM.
That's
building
correct.
Information. Yeah.
And it leads to a whole another level of coordination between, it's not just us that produces drawings. It's, we have partners, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers. There's a whole team behind just the architect. And when you work in this three-dimensional environment where everybody is working together in a common model, again, it's about efficiency and clash detection, and being able to identify problems before they happen. Out in the field, when a contractor's standing there saying, hey guys, your two-dimensional drawing over here doesn't match their two-dimensional drawing over here. We're all working in the same model together. So we see those, potential areas of miscoordination on paper well before a shovel's even stuck in the ground to start a project.
The whole, what you said was potential problems. Yeah. and that's, I would say a big part of what, like you said, the expense and the liability of being able to see around corners, with all of your experience, being able to advise a developer or owner, like, well, I know that you want this, but if you do that, you're going to have a couple different options. Some of those options go away when you choose this. Like, choose A, and this will happen. Do you want
Yeah.
that to happen?
Well, yeah.
And so those are
When,
critical.
yeah. Discover a coordination issue out in the field when it's being built, your options are limited in terms of how you solve that problem. Um,
Yeah.
when you do it on paper, it doesn't cost anybody any extra money. It doesn't cost anybody extra time. It's dealt with and it's put away. Hopefully at that point.
I'm going to bring this one up because when you and I first met, I this Fahrenheit restaurant, for what we're showing here, uh, the is on the top floor of the Hyatt Place, Center City, Charlotte, right? And I moved to Charlotte in 2010, shortly after the I guess the most recent Great Recession, or the one of the I'm not sure what we're calling it now, but the Great Recession of 2008, 9, and then 10. And there was and I was working in Uptown Charlotte, and there was just this empty shell of a building that looked to be about 15 stories or so, and it was just concrete, and it was sitting there for quite a while. And then construction got started again. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then it was announced. I said, that's going to, it looked to be a condo, or some sort of apartment complex, and not sure what it was. I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. And then they said it's going to be a hotel. And I was like, whoa. And you and I met shortly after that, and you were the architect involved in converting that shell of a condominium type building to a hotel, and eventually has this amazing and very popular rooftop bar and restaurant called Fahrenheit on top. And so check that out, man. I just want to say that I thought that this was an awesome thing that you were a part of, and talk about the potential problems of taking from one use to another. But um, congratulations on this. I always thought that this was the coolest thing, and I could tell my friends, like, I know John Mang, and he was involved in all that. So this must have been pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. And that was quite a while ago now. I mean, geez, that was what, 10, 12, 13 years ago. First of all, Fahrenheit is a fantastic restaurant. Rocco Whalen, the owner and chef for Fahrenheit, is absolutely phenomenal in what he can do. With the taste buds. But this image right here, it amazes me. So many years later, and obviously this was before the selfie was invented. But you can go on social media pretty much any given day and see somebody kind of posting a picture from in front of that fire pit, kind of overlooking the skyline of Charlotte, from that spot right there. So you get the railing in the background kind of gives it away when you know it's there. But it was a challenging project just because it was taking a structure that was half built, that ended up having a use that was completely different from when it was conceived, and different ownership groups, and working with the city on this project, code enforcement. It was just a great collaborative effort all the way around, and from the contractor, Cleveland Construction, the owners, development groups, Small Brothers, just absolutely phenomenal people, and a team that was able to take what was it was kind of a rusting hulk of a steel frame on the Charlotte skyline for a couple of years, and kind of having again, it goes back to having a lot of fun, doing a great project, and
I remember you talking very highly about Cleveland Construction and the Small Brothers, and I know that you put them on the radar for me, and I've I've been following them because it does kind of all starts with that vision, right? And then because this is I mean, to look at just a concrete half-built building and to think like it could become something like this, geez, what a vision.
It was fun.
That's yeah, and fun, right? That's good. The I wanted to ask you about we can use this as an example or you can use another one, but when somebody does have a vision, let's say a lot of people that we support here on this podcast are actually to give people a voice that they might otherwise not be able to have, or to amplify that voice and those opinions. A lot of them are hotel general managers. A lot of them are um, they have a great vision mindset. They're very visionary. They have a huge amount of social capital and human capital value, where they know a lot of people, they know who to call, but they might not have $1 million to, to go take over control a piece of land and put together a project like this. But being able to, what you were saying earlier, being able to translate and be able to understand these terms. That's why I asked you about the AIA. Like, what does that mean? It's like it makes the highly qualified hotel or restaurant operators be able to talk the talk and to not be intimidated with dealing with an architect or a hotel developer or those people that can write $1 million check to take over a piece of land. And so a lot of times the operators or the management company executives, they're the ones with a vision, and they're seeking to be the leader of that vision, to take, maybe it's to take a convert from one hotel brand to another hotel brand and to expand the number of rooms, or knock out some walls and add a restaurant or something like that, right? So when someone that doesn't write the checks, right, has a vision, um, and it's their responsibility and their to convince the people that do write the checks, the developers or owners, to say, I think that you should do this. There are some groups out there that are phenomenal at presenting the vision and to say that this is the ROI and this is how we can get it done. Um, in your experience, John, as an architect, when um, those conversations start from, this is what we want to do you get asked a lot about like what's possible, like very early conversations, like, is this even possible? I mean, you, with your experience and your the construction documents, your architectural and design experience, I mean, do you can you remember some times when a something that might seem like this lofty vision that you just know in your mind, like, there's no way that's going to happen? Or are you able to kind of articulate, that is possible, but these next 2 3 steps, like, walk me through that a little bit? I mean, because those must be not uncomfortable conversations, but just I think they're fun conversations to be like, is it possible? Is it feasible? Is it going to cost too much? That kind of stuff.
Sure. I mean, there's those discussions. I think on every project, it's at some level, either at the beginning or some step along the way. There's so many moving parts in a project, right? That you can't control sometimes, but it's all about identifying what you can control. And a lot of that stuff is just understanding the codes and zoning ordinances early on,
Yeah.
to be able to steer a client in the right direction, to say, yeah, it'd be great to put a 20-story building in your backyard. But I'm pretty sure your neighborhood association isn't gonna, like that too much. And your neighbor's gonna probably complain a little bit about they're never gonna see daylight again, because you're blocking the sun. So, it's through experience, being able to guide up front, a client and we're stewards of a lot of things for clients, whether it's their um, the direction their design goes in. Sustainability is a big thing right now, so, and things like life cycle cost, right? How you're not just looking out for their interests and what they want to do, but what's it look like 5, 10, 15 years down the road in terms of cost, not just the initial cost up front. So we take all of that stuff into consideration, and sure, there's lots of conversations along the way where you just want to say, this might not be the best approach. One thing about architects is, and there's we're really good generalists. I think there's a saying that says we know a little bit about everything, but a lot about nothing. I think that's being a little bit harsh. I think we know a lot about a lot of things, but there are instances where we say we're going to have to find somebody and bring somebody in that can really help guide this in the direction that it needs to. And it's that network of kind of people and knowledge that allows us early on in a project to make sure we're steering people in the right direction. Nobody ever wants to get to the point where, you showed the kind of the progression from sketch to 3 dimensions to finished rendering before. Nobody wants to get to that rendering standpoint and all of a sudden realize what they want and what we're proposing doesn't work. I mean, that's just we'll be out of business in a month if that happens, because we need to guide the process in the right way. So and there's projects.
You've been very generous in calling me sometimes when there's when the market shifts a little bit and you get a call from like an office building owner, and COVID hits, and all of a sudden their vacancy rate, which was 3%, before that, now it's like 20, 30, 40, and they're like, hey John, what can I possibly do here with this space if I'm not going to get these companies to come back and lease floors, and maybe they've tried Regis or other opportunities. And thank you for calling me sometimes when they say, hey, could this become some sort of hospitality asset, or convert add some food and beverage, or add some new amenities, or even convert some rooms to a extended stay hotel or some sort of boutique design hotel space. So are you getting, I would imagine, are you getting calls from those office building folks that are saying, hey, what can I do with my space here? Times are changing.
Yeah, definitely. And, we're not seeing that as much here in the Charlotte area as we are in Northern Virginia and the DC area. But, there's, unfortunately, there's, just given the course of the last kind of 3 years and kind of getting back to a normal, what we call normal now, the new normal of what it looks like for people to work in a hybrid environment, thing that's a little bit different and changed from where we were prior to 2019. There's a lot of that happening, and very quickly, I'll just use an example. I mean, we've had some clients come to us and say, hey, we got this office building that's got a lot of vacancy in it. We've been reading a lot about, office conversion to multifamily because, there's the housing shortage, and what that looks like. And, a lot of that stuff sounds great on paper, but there are just, when you take a look at what an office building and how they are made, and you look at, the way, the footprints of maximizing floor area for office use versus what's livable from a lifestyle standpoint with window lines and being able to get light deep into buildings. Quite honestly, a lot of them just don't work. And that goes back to the discussion, how do you very quickly be able to tell somebody that this might just not be the best candidate for that. We have to look at some alternative, kind of functions.
Right. If it's a deep building, that's going to limit the amount of natural light that comes in. Right. And
And there's challenges like that, and being able to assess properties very quickly.
Hmm.
In the hospitality world, it's bouncing back, and or in a lot of instances has bounced back. But you look at things like meeting space, and some of the hotels having 30,000, 40,000 square feet of meeting space that aren't being used or booked at the capacity they once were. Or maybe it's aged and it's having a tough time being competitive in the marketplace. Well, what can that space be used for? And just not just the meeting space. It's um, you know the back of house functions and kitchen areas that go with it that are underutilized. And maybe there's things like concepts for ghost kitchens or maker space or things like that those spaces can be transformed into to generate revenue from the hotel standpoint, and put those spaces to work for them. And those are the kind of the shifts that we're having to be creative with today, is finding any especially in a commercial building, any space that's left over that isn't generating money for the building owner is underutilized. How do you put that back to work in a capacity that makes it more valuable? Um,
You were
Same.
the first person to even introduce me to the term makerspace. I had to look it up on Wikipedia or something. I remember that, and that was quite a while ago. And I think it's fascinating. Can you just, for the purpose of our billions of listeners now, I think we just hit over a billion. So, no, just when you say makerspace as an option for utilizing the maybe the highest and best use for a space inside of a building. What does that mean to you as an architect, and what have you seen as good projects?
Yeah, it's creative space, right? It's for people that it's exactly what it sounds like. It's for people that make things. You have co-working space for people that live in an office environment. Everyone's familiar with what that looks like, whether it's Regis or any one of the co-working entities out there.
Hmm.
Makerspace is essentially that for people that do things. It could be for trades. I'm an independent small HVAC contractor, and I need to have shop space to be able to build ductwork, and the cost and the barrier to to get into that may be maybe tough to do from a sole proprietor
Right.
standpoint. But at the end of the day, if there's a space that people can use and rent, like an office space, to be able to use equipment, machinery to make things for their trade, that's essentially it. Same thing with
I've
ghost.
seen some with like 3D printing, right? If somebody wants to, if someone becomes certified or capable of in that space of making things with 3D printing, then maybe they can't afford to purchase an entire 3D printer themselves, and maybe they're not doing it full time. Maybe they want to go into a space like this where they actually have a few that you can rent out, and
Yeah,
it's got that space, right? That's like kind of like a maker space.
yeah. Same thing with ghost kitchens. Similar concept for the food industry. I mean, everyone loves food trucks, and you see food trucks driving all over town, parked on street corners, and Food Truck Friday and everything else. But they sometimes still need a space to prep food, to store food, to some of that always just doesn't happen inside the truck. It happens at a place, prior to being put on the food truck. And the barrier to entry of having a commercial kitchen at your disposal is very costly. And you can do the same thing. Ghost kitchens are pretty much the co-working space where you can utilize commercial grade equipment at a cost, a reasonable cost, and have an office set up with your own kind of personal kitchen space without having to pay for the cost of a restaurant. Really great concept.
It really is, and I think largely unknown a lot of times. I think, which is just like a ghost. You don't see it, and so One example for the people listening and watching is I think it's just wings. Um, I was looking for my kids like chicken, right? So I was, maybe a year ago, I was looking at Uber Eats or DoorDash. For I was like, are there any fried chicken or chicken wing places that we haven't tried in a while? And I do that search every now and again, right? And then all of a sudden, I see like 7 or 8 "It's Just Wings" pop up on the map of inside around my area. I was like, how do they open up like 6 new locations within a week? And it was a ghost kitchen. It's a ghost kitchen with, I believe, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here, but I think it's a concept made by Chili's restaurants, and it's so they created their own kind of ghost kitchen concept, a new brand under their brand. But no one would ever, like, you wouldn't be able to walk in to an It's Just Wings restaurant. If you would go into the location where they're delivering from, it's a Chili's or it's some sort of affiliated with that restaurant chain. So I think it's fascinating because that's that means there's more jobs. There's more options for the public, and if you execute it in the right way, that's you can have some fun doing it. And
If
it's
you've
like you
ordered
said,
food from Uber Eats, I guarantee you've gotten food from a ghost kitchen,
yeah,
from restaurants just like that.
yep.
Yeah.
And they the just like the maker space, just like co-working space, you're call it renting or leasing some space, and you're using the equipment that are there that uh you need the experts to set up payment systems and to set up, like, who's going to come deliver the food. Like, if I'm cooking it and I got my new brand here, am I going to have to get in my car? No, that's what the ghost kitchen does. And so I think it's a beautiful opportunity for entrepreneurs in the food and beverage space. Food trucks is another one. I've seen some innovations with the idea of acquiring or getting really good rates on interest rates on leasing or buying a food truck that needs a little bit of work, and then maybe contacting an architect or somebody like you to say, like, hey, what do I need to do in order to upfit this into a functional uh, food truck, a restaurant space. And then uh, I think the collaboration point is what you mentioned earlier. Man, when you're able to collaborate with multiple people that can do things that you're not an expert at, but you have a vision and you have some capabilities and you become great at something like cooking, or like maybe you worked at a pizza restaurant for the last 10 years and you just have this idea for a new kind of pizza type meal or a new kind of pizza. Food truck's a great option. I mean, it's not going to require you to get the bricks and mortar of a huge lease of a 2,000 or 3,000 square foot restaurant, just for trying something out. Food trucks, ghost kitchens, and things like that. The upfront costs and liability is greatly gone down, and so um, the meeting spaces, as you suggested and mentioned about the co-working. I think that large full service hotels are in the same kind of boat as large office buildings, of saying, geez, we're just not occupying that type of space that much. And it happened, and it's been like that for a few years, and we don't see it coming back. So um, I will say this: if you have any questions about space, contact John, because I got his website here. You can contact John at Intech Group, intechgroup.net. Um, John is right there on the website that I was showing you. I'm not suggesting that you put a big fire pit in your backyard. I'm just need to say that for a disclaimer. Right? But John, you've actually visited my homes before, and I was like, hey, can I turn this attic into a bedroom? And you've been so generous with your time and your expertise, and I sometimes I have a bigger vision than what my wallet can afford. But hey, it's all good conversation.
That's a lot of fun. That's the important thing.
It's a lot of fun, man. It's a lot of fun. And so I do want to mention, because most of our listeners and our watchers, this is on a continuous loop, and it'll continue to be available on LinkedIn Live, on YouTube, at Hospiamo, Hospiamo, and also on Facebook Live. We're going live on Facebook on our channels. We have an affiliate nonprofit called Hospitality Industry Impact Initiative, or HI3, that we support, and that also has a live feed on their Facebook page. And if you're interested in education within the hospitality industry, or looking for a job, or if you're a young up and comer and you're looking to engage and collaborate and get to know some amazing people like John, who's in our network, and are curious, then Hospitality Industry Impact Initiative, or hospitalityimpact.org. It's a 501c3 educational nonprofit. It's a great organization that we support. Please visit there, and you'll get connected into answering any questions that you might have. And hospitality is not even an industry, it's more of a mindset. And so if you're interested in hotels, restaurants, tourism, food service, or even food production and manufacturing, it's such a huge spanning industry. And so, and one that is constantly changing. And John, I will say that, you and I, since knowing each other, the entire world has changed, first of all, but the even within our I mean, you are involved with every sector of real estate and every sector of space and use. Um, and I think it's fascinating that even if somebody wants to do something in their backyard, there's a landscape architect that you can call. But knowing who to call, and whether or not you can even put a pool in your backyard or something like that, right? A lot of this, I'm very inspired and very thankful to you for spending time with us, because a lot of those conversations start with the vision of saying, I don't even know if I can do this. I don't even know if I can afford it, but this is something that I'm thinking about doing. And that's where a lot of our conversations even start. So thank you for being that. And I would inspire anybody listening to this, especially hotel managers, that are in the field working your tail off every day. Your your education and your knowledge is something that none of us have. You see the spaces and you're living in it every single day, and you're managing teams of people. And so if you have an idea of something that you think could be used better at your hotels, a corner, or if you feel like adding like a gift shop, or even doing an online gift shop, or converting some meeting space to a co-working space, these are all awesome ideas. You are more than welcome to call me, Adam at hospiamo.com. And if it has anything to do with architecture and design, I have a friend here in John Mang that you always answer the call when I text or call, John. So thank you for that. And it's great to have you in our network of friends. And we can finish up here, unless you have anything else that you wanted to. Are you writing a book or anything that you want to send people? You should.
No books. I got my, I spend my time with my family and my wife and my kids, and that's the other the real time job. And one of the things that we always say here is, our vision is to enhance the human condition, and that's what we do on a day-to-day, on everyday basis. We live that, we talk that, we breathe that, and if we're not leaving a conversation, a building, a world in a better spot than where we started, then we're not doing the right thing. So let's go enhance some human conditions today.
I love that, man. I really like that. Please learn more about that at intechgroup.net. Reach out to John, reach out to me, Adam, and we will finish up here, man. Thank you so much, John, for spending this time. I know you're busy building and designing things, so I would love to do this again with you sometime. And Thank you and happy holidays. And I'm very thankful for having you as a friend and a guest on our show.
Happy holidays to you and to the billions and billions served. And thanks for inviting me into the conversation. It's been fun.
My pleasure. All my best to your family and friends and your coworkers there at Intech Group too. Thank you.
Same to you. Thanks, Adam.